Your host, John Sirianidis, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, John Sapichetti. John, how are you on this frigid Sunday morning in November?
Frigid. It's 48 degrees. I mean, you are originally from Wisconsin. You've been in New
Doesn't
England the
matter. I
rest of
only
your
lived
life.
there until I was 4.
Okay, but it's not exactly tropical here year round. So I wouldn't call today frigid, but it's autumnally.
It's cold. It's not autumnly. It's cold. It was in the
Okay.
30s this morning. My Greek blood can't handle it. I hate it. I'm beginning to contemplate whether or not I want to continue to live here. It's disgusting to me. If I don't like anything under 70, 75 degrees. I'm good. I could tolerate the 60s, but anything under 60, I'm out. In any event, enough of me bitching about the weather. Let's talk some football here. Patriots looking to win their 6th in a row today as they host the mercurial Atlanta Falcons, who come into this game at 3-4. And John, that's kind of been the theme all week with this Atlanta Falcons team. You really don't know what you're going to get. They were 3-2 a couple weeks ago. They lost a tight Sunday night game to the San Francisco 49ers. Then they return home last week and get blown out by the Miami Dolphins 34-10, a Miami Dolphins team that couldn't get out of their own way Thursday night against the Ravens. This Atlanta team has a lot of talent. On paper, you can make the argument that this is probably one of the 10 most talented rosters in the league. And it's easy to say, okay, well, maybe the coach and the staff aren't getting enough out of them. But this team is truly a mystery. They're hard to figure out. When you look at how good they are on paper, they should be better than 3-4, but it's more about the inconsistency with them. They just can't seem to put it together on a week-to-week basis.
What happens with the Falcons is when they're good, they're really good. They look like a playoff team, right? They have a 22-6 win over Minnesota at Minnesota in week 2. They follow that up the next week with a 30-0 loss to the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers then come to Foxborough and lose 42-13 to the Patriots. Then I think Atlanta had one of the most impressive performances this year. Monday night victory over the Bills, 24-14. The score was not really indicative of how much they dominated that game. What did? They lost that close game at San Francisco. No shame in that. And then, as you said last week, that had to be one of the most disappointing performances all season long. To me, Miami is in like tank mode at this point, which doesn't really exist in the NFL. I get it, but they're not all on the same page in Miami, and they recently just fired their general manager. So you figure Atlanta at home, coming off 2 good performances, albeit one was a loss to San Francisco, should handle the Miami Dolphins. They lose 34-10. It's not that they lose these games; they get blown out. And I've made a pact with myself never again to pick for or against the Atlanta Falcons. It's just not worth it. They're the highest ceiling, lowest floor of any team I can think of in the NFL.
Yeah, and again, I think that's the challenge today for the Patriots, right? Like, obviously, I don't care who you're playing. I don't care what week it is. You need to get up for the game, and you need to come out and get off to a good start. And that's going to be imperative once again for them. But I think in a lot of ways, it's even more important this week because this is a team that if you allow them to score first, if you allow them to get into a rhythm offensively and get off to a good start, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have your hands full. Like you said, they're a hard team to figure out, but when they're on. They're really good. And it starts with Bijan Robinson, arguably the best running back in the league. I don't think that's hyperbole. You can make that case for him. And I know that a lot of people are going to say you're really using this as the barometer, but I look at where he went in fantasy football drafts, and that speaks to how well he's viewed by people, not only around the league and in the game itself, but football fans as well. He's uber talented. He's a guy that can really make plays both as a runner and as a receiver. He's also explosive. He can make big plays. We saw that in that Monday night game against Buffalo. He is the key here for the Patriots today defensively. They have got to stop him if they want to win this football game.
Yeah, to just kind of tie in the fantasy football aspect of this, who was the first wide receiver drafted in fantasy football? And in many leagues, the first overall pick was Jamar Chase. Well, watch him on the field. There's a reason why he was the first pick in the draft. He's that good. And the same thing with Bijan Robinson, who, again, can beat you both ways through the pass, through the run. Drake London is a very good wide receiver. Kyle Pitts, who has been somewhat of a disappointment. He was the 4th overall pick in 2021, the highest drafted tight end we've seen in modern football history. He's been good, not great, but he can be a matchup problem at 6'6", 6'7", 245 pounds. So they do have talent on that side of the ball. They've invested in the offensive line. A lot of this revolves on the development, of course, of Michael Penix, the left-handed quarterback in his second year.
Yeah, and you mentioned Drake London. That's going to be one of the key matchups, and I had it as one of my top 5 matchups for the week, and make sure you catch that over at anyfootballjournal.com. The Drake London Christian Gonzalez matchup is going to be a key matchup to watch, and that's your classic X-receiver boundary corner matchup where you have a guy in London who was out last week. Both him and Penix were out for that game last week. But you have a guy in Drake London who can make plays vertically, but he's also a tough matchup underneath on curl routes, hitch routes, outs, comebacks. He gets good body position. He's like a basketball player. He has a real good feel for bodying out corners and making plays on the ball. And I think that's going to be the challenge today for Christian Gonzalez is how do you handle that size one-on-one with him? How do you compete in those contested catch situations? Because that's where both Drake London and Kyle Pitts could be matchup problems. And the same would go for Craig Woodson if the Patriots are in man and Woodson is matched up on Pitts. It's how do you handle that size? How do you handle his ability to box out? How do you handle those strong hands? How do you rake through those hands to make a play on the ball? Those guys present challenges. Now, a lot of that, of course, will come down to Michael Penix, who is back this week. He was out last week. Kirk Cousins getting the start for the Falcons in that loss to Miami. Penix has been up and down. I think you've seen moments with him, John, where you see the potential. You see why the Atlanta Falcons, even though they had already signed Kirk Cousins, they went out and they drafted him 2 years ago. You see a lot of what you saw from him both at Indiana and Washington in college. But then he kind of follows the pattern of this football team where he could be wildly inconsistent. And he's not always on. When he's on and he's driving the ball and he's got time, he looks like a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the league. When he's getting any kind of pressure and he's off his spot, and this is usually the case with left-handed quarterbacks, he's really off and his accuracy wanes. It's going to be imperative today for the Patriots not necessarily to blitz him, but to get a consistent base pressure against him, because throwing him off his spot is going to be a big part of this week's defensive game plan.
You mentioned being left-handed. This is the third left-handed quarterback the Patriots are playing this year. They faced Tua in week 2, and again last week, Dylan Gabriel against the Cleveland Browns, left-handed quarterback. So maybe having that left-handed quarterback a week ago will get them prepared for Michael Penix, although Penix has far more talent around him and in his own body than Dylan Gabriel. I mean, he's a very talented passer. The interesting thing about this stuff, John, is he is better throwing deep than short. Normally, quarterbacks are more comfortable throwing short to intermediary type of patterns. He's best throwing deep. He's also best throwing outside the numbers. Most quarterbacks, they still like to use the middle of the field. So this is a challenge that you're going against a left-handed quarterback who's not afraid to push the ball down the field, but also isn't afraid to go outside the numbers. So this is kind of like the Pizarro quarterback compared to a lot of other quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, and again, I think it goes back to the theme of today's show and the theme of today's game, which is, again, their inconsistency. If he comes out and he's on early and he's completing passes those first 2 or 3 series, Patriots could be in for a long afternoon defensively. And look, we've talked about this throughout the season. The Patriots defense has been very good, specifically against the run. So I expect them to be able to at least contain Bijan Robinson. I'm not sure you can totally stop him, although Miami did last week. But my concern is, and we've talked about this for weeks now, they don't get off to good starts. They give up opening drive scores. You can't do that today. This is a team that if they go up, let's say 7-0, 14-0, 14-3, even 14-7, you don't want to play from behind against these guys, because if this offense gets into a rhythm, they're going to be tough to stop. So it's important that right out of the gate in this game, the Patriots really get in his face, throw the timing off with him and Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Mooney, and the rest of that receiving core, and really put them in a situation where he has to press to make plays. Because when you get them in a 2nd and long, 3rd and long, that's when he tends to try to force the ball into places he shouldn't. As I like to say, he tries to force sand up a flea's ass. And that's when he gets himself into trouble. And I think if you're the Patriots, you got to get him into those medium and long down situations where he has to throw the ball and he has to make a play. And like I said, that's when he tends to press.
Sand up a flea's ass. That sounds like kidney stones.
It's an old John Gruden line.
I love it. Absolutely. And hopefully Gruden's in the league next year.
Quarterbacks all the time when I coached them.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, it sounds like kidney stones, which I've had on several occasions. Incredibly painful.
It's
They're
a fat
horrible.
man disease. It happens.
Well, probably, yeah. We eat too much cheese. It's in the Greek and Italian diet, and that's what we have to suffer the consequences of. As far as if you are
We eat
behind
too
Atlanta,
much salt. That's really what it is.
that true. Yeah, absolutely. Then they get gallstones, and now we sound like two old guys yelling at the clouds. But when you look at the Atlanta Falcons, if they play with the lead, their defense can put pressure on the quarterback, and their secondary is top ranked. I mean, they are good against the pass. They made Josh Allen look bad on that Monday night game. I mean, Josh Allen.
To your point about pressure, they pressure more than anybody in the league. 48.1% of the time they blitz. So, first-year defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich is going to. I hate using this term. It pains me because it's such a stupid term. He's going to dial up pressure.
Dial up. Yeah, but it's true because that's his nature, and he did that against Josh Allen. And again, Josh Allen put 14 points on the board. Josh Allen, for the most part, puts 30 on the board before the game starts. That's what it feels like.
You love Allen, you jock him every week.
I like 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, one more than others, but yeah, we'll be jockeying him.
He doesn't play.
The next couple well, he looks good on the sideline. He's looking really sharp in his outfits. With that though, their defense can be really, really good. This is why this team makes no sense. You totally contained Josh Allen, and then you made Tua look like a Pro Bowler. Like in a period of 2 weeks. It just makes no sense. You got to get the lead in this game. We talked about this all season, even during this 5-game winning streak. The Patriots have trailed in many occasions, but you were trailing the Cleveland Browns. The Carolina Panthers actually had a 6-0 lead early back in week 4. You trailed the Titans. The Saints scored first when they got the ball. But those teams aren't going to, be able to match points with you as the game goes on. This Atlanta team, like you said, if they get up 10 points, they can push with Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. And the biggest concern I have, John, as far as covering the talented players for the Atlanta Falcons, Bijan Robinson is a phenomenal receiver out of the backfield. Kyle Pitts is a nightmare as a matchup. The Patriots are susceptible to the middle of the field, which, again, Atlanta's not as comfortable exploiting. But if they're able to do that, they could have a nightmare matchup with both Bijan Robinson and with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, and again, that's why I think it's going to be so important to get that consistent pressure on Penix, because if you do, then I think you should be okay. And I don't worry so much about those guys. I know a lot has been made about how good they are. Pitts has not been an impact player, and I don't expect him to be an impact player in this game today. I really don't. I mean, now I could be eating those words later on today, but we're not talking about a guy that's going to catch 10 passes for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's a guy that could catch a couple of key first downs for him. I will say that. But you're looking at a guy that's probably going to, at best, catch 6 to 8 passes for 70, 75 yards, maybe a score. But that's the other thing with him. He doesn't score enough, so you don't necessarily worry about him as much as you should in the red zone. London, obviously, is going to be more of a factor in the red zone for them. But again, this is an offense that the Patriots should be able to match up with, despite how talented they are. Patriots should be able to match up with. They have the requisite pieces to match up with them. They have the big corner that can match up with London. They have the safeties that can match up with Pitts. They've been tremendous all season long against the run. They're really good in the core. You got Barmore, you got Milton Williams. They're both disruptive inside. Chason and Landry have been terrific coming off the edge, although seems like they're starting to slow down a little bit, and that's why the Patriots could potentially be in the market for a defensive end on Tuesday at the trade deadline. But all that being said, you're well-equipped to slow down this offense. You are watching the Patriots Pulse preview show. I'm your host, John Sirenitas. As always, I'm joined by John Sapichetti. Patriots hosting the Atlanta Falcons today. Falcons coming to town with a 3-4 record. Patriots will be looking to win their 6th in a row. They are currently 6-2. Let's go to the other side of the ball here. And, we talked about how good Atlanta's offense is potentially. When you look at their defense, John, it's kind of unheralded, I should say. They get a lot out of a little, in my opinion, especially with their front 7. I don't think that they're super talented. Obviously, it was a focal point in this past April's draft. They went out and they got Jalen Walker. They got Pierce, the edge rusher from Tennessee. You mentioned the secondary's good. Front 7 isn't as good on paper, but Jeff Ulbrich has done a really good job of getting a lot out of those guys.
This is going to be an interesting matchup because Ulbrich was the defensive coordinator in New York last year with the Jets. Coach once Robert Saleh was fired. He really never faced Drake May, though, because Drake May did not start the first Jets game on that Thursday night when Aaron Rodgers looked like Aaron Rodgers and the Jets won handily. And then a few weeks later, when they came to Foxborough, you remember that he got injured early in the game. Jacoby Brissett came in and they ended up winning with a last-second touchdown. So Ulbrich really hasn't faced Drake May. So that's going to be an interesting matchup that we're going to see. And it's going to be, of course, Ulbrich going against Josh McDaniels, the chess pieces on the board to see what they can do offensively against Atlanta. Atlanta's really good against the pass. The Patriots have been running the football better the last couple of weeks. The only problem is Ramondre Stevenson is out. So you're depleted at running back. Do you have enough in the running game to at least have a balance on offense?
Patriots are going to catch a little bit of a break today, though. Divine Diablo's on IR for them. He got hurt in that San Francisco game. He was Ulbrich's favorite chess piece. He can play him off the ball, on the ball. He can even drop into vertical coverage. A former safety. He's a guy that can play the hole in Tampa, too. So you can do a lot with him. He's going to be out today. Cornerback Billy Bowman appears to be out today as well. So the Patriots are going to get a break in that regard, specifically with Diablo. He's a player that, like I said, he's a chess piece. You could do a lot with him. You can mug him and bring him. You can mug him and drop him. He can play off ball, on ball, and he can play deep in zone coverage as well. So not having to deal with a guy like that, that's a versatile piece that can impact the game, is good. Now, you will have to deal with a guy like Walker, who I think is a similar type of player, not as long or as athletic, but a guy that can rush the passer off the edge on the ball, can play off the ball and make plays as well on early downs. So he's going to be a key guy to watch on this Atlanta defense, a player who could potentially impact the game. Couple of guys in their secondary, though, that make their secondary tough. And I think for the Patriots to win today offensively, they're going to have to throw the football because we know that the situation at running back, Ramondre Stevenson is out. Travion Henderson will be the featured back today. He will get the bulk of the carries. They did bring up the immortal Dearness Johnson. He's going to be active for today's game. You also have Terrell Jennings. So obviously, and this is not a knock on Jennings and Johnson, but this is going to be the Travion Henderson show. You're thin there. With that said, I think you're going to need to throw to win, and you've had to throw to win the last few weeks anyway. But this secondary with A.J. Terrell, Jesse Bates, they pose a lot of problems potentially for the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots, what has been so impressive about their passing attack the last actually 7 weeks, but during this 5-game winning streak, is the ability to also throw short. And look, Drake May has gone from being a big question mark with a lot of talent, but in a developmental stage, to now being third in MVP odds behind Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. That's incredible. And you know what? He deserves to be there because he's played that well. So you trust him more and more and more to do what he has to do to move the football, whether it's maybe getting the ball to his backs or his tight ends or getting the ball downfield where he's been very effective. He right now is considered, again, I don't know this stuff. You know better than I, but most of the people are saying right now he might be the best deep ball thrower in the league. Now, that's tough to put that on someone who's only played 22 games in his career, but look at it. The deep throws are exquisite, right? So he could go in that direction as well. So you trust the passing game to do what it has to do. I think Ramondre Stevenson, who has had the fumble issues, but he's kind of cleaned it up a little bit, he's going to be missed in pass protection because he is an elite pass protector as a running back. We heard that Travion Henderson was supposed to be that at Ohio State, but I think it's a little bit different blocking, ends in the NFL than it is blocking outside linebackers in Minnesota. So with the Gophers, I say. So that might be an issue to see what happens as far as pass protection from the running backs. That's getting also very deep into inside baseball, but that's an important part of this.
Oh, absolutely. And it's going to be a big part of it because, again, this is a team that pressures. This is a team that's going to get after Drake May. They're not going to let him sit there, work through his progression, and get the ball out on time. They're going to get hands in his face. They're going to get bodies in the pocket. They're going to make him have to move. And while we know how good May is when he breaks contain and he extends plays with his legs, the reality is this team has a secondary to cover. They can play a bunch of man-to-man and bring 5 and 6 anytime they need to. And I think they're going to do that today. That's going to be the focal point of their defensive game plan. They know, look, New England may not necessarily run the football as much as they have this season. And again, it's well chronicled. The Patriots running game has not been great this season. It's been better of late, specifically the last 3 weeks. But Ulbrich knows, look, if we're going to win this football game, we got to get after May. We've got the people to do it on the back end. We can match up. I expect Atlanta to come after him a lot today. I think you're going to see a lot of 5, 6, and maybe even some 7-man pressures and some 0 behind it. I think they're going to say, you know what? As good as he is throwing the deep ball, we think we can match up with their receivers and we can negate that. And if that's the case, that's where this game could potentially swing more. We're so hyper-focused on Robinson and London and Pitts and their offense, but it's their defense that could win them this game.
And then you have Kayshon Boutte, who's been spectacular really the last month and a half. And I know you were always big on him. Just needed the chance to play, needed a chance to develop. And now he's got a quarterback that's, outstanding to get him the football. I mean, that guy, it almost feels like I'm watching Stanley Morgan again. And that's high praise. I mean, I'm an old guy. I'm referencing Stanley Morgan.
I loved Stanley Morgan.
I love Stanley Morgan. Should be
in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of the voters that I know think likewise. The guy averaged 22 yards per catch several seasons. I mean, that you won't see that anymore in the NFL. But Kayshon Boutte's been that type of deep threat, and if he's able to continue that, that really makes the offense that much more difficult to contain, because now you have a quarterback that can throw anywhere on the field, and you have a wide receiver that can go anywhere and get it. That opens up the entire offense for you. So the question I wanted to ask, though, is as far as Travion Henderson, can you give him 18 to 20 carries in a game, or is he more of a specialty?
No, I think you can. I mean, look, I get your question, because I think when you look at his career at Ohio State, he was always in a timeshare, and he was always that third down back, that guy that when they needed a big play, they could use him in a variety of ways, whether it be in the backfield, in the slot. Sometimes they'd even play him on the line as an X receiver. But I think he can handle it. I think physically he can handle it. And the good thing is, look, he's been in the timeshare all season. So he's averaging 12, 15 touches a game. Mm-hmm. So now you bump that up to 18 to 20. He can handle it. And I'm not saying that they're not going to make any effort to run the football. I think they will. But I do think that unless you can get him going early, and Jennings is going to need to be a guy that gets some carries as well, I would suspect you're also going to see a lot of jet sweeps and fly sweeps with Demario Douglas today. I think you're going to see him in the backfield a little bit too, especially where they'll motion him in and they'll try to get him on swing screens and motion him and maybe get him back to a slot and throw him bubble screens. I think you're going to see a fair amount of perimeter screens today as well, because those are extended running plays, and you're going to need to find another way to get the ball into space that doesn't involve your running back. So I think it's going to be all hands on deck in the running game today. But I think with this Atlanta defense, if you can protect against their blitzes and you can get the ideal one-on-one matchups you want, and as good as Terrell and Bates are, there are going to be matchups there that are in your favor against the other guys in that secondary. The Patriots should still be able to throw the football as effectively as they have so far this season. For your liking, have they integrated enough of the West Coast offense into their offense in terms of play action, boots, those types of things? Because a couple of the plays that they ran against New Orleans, that play that we're still talking about, which is a two-man route, which was exquisite, are they using that type of offense enough, or do they have to integrate a little bit more with Stevenson being out and you have basically that short passing game that is an extension of the running game? I mean, you see some of those concepts in their offense for sure. But I mean, again, do they need to incorporate more? No, I think they're going to. I don't think it's just. I think McDaniels has done a masterful job of using Thomas Brown and his knowledge of the modern West Coast offense. He's the pass game coordinator, and they've incorporated a lot of those concepts. I think he's done a really good job of also incorporating some spread concepts to play into May's strengths and run stuff that he's comfortable with. But I still think when you watch them on a down-to-down, when you look at him from a down-to-down basis, I still think that 70% of this offense is still the offense that they ran here for over 20 years with Belichick and Brady. Conceptually, it's still a lot of that same stuff. But where I think McDaniels has done a terrific job, and this is part of him managing the offense more than anything else, is, again, to your point, incorporating Thomas Brown and using some of those West Coast offense passing concepts and the layering and everything else and the timing aspect of that passing game. And I think they've also, as I go through puberty again, I think that they've also, I think where they've done a really good job too is they simplified the passing game for the receivers. It's not so much about what it used to be with Brady, where you and Brady had to be in sync in terms of corner leverage and where the defenders are and adjusting the route, at the midway point and changing the route. I think they've kind of gotten away from that stuff. That used to be the run and shoot element in the Perkins Earhart offense, and I think they've gotten away from some of that stuff. And I think it's helped these receivers, to be honest with you, because now they can just go out there and play without worrying about, okay, the corner's off. I got to change my route at this point, or else I'm not going to be on the same page with my quarterback. That pressure is not there anymore. That used to be a big reason why receivers, even veteran receivers, guys like Torrey Holt, Chad Johnson, that's why they struggled. Brandon Lloyd, even, that's why they struggled when they came here and tried to play in that offense, because of all the sight and route adjustments after the snap. I don't think they're doing as much of that anymore. So that's where you do see Thomas Brown's influence, where it's more of that West Coast aspect of the passing game. But I still see a lot of Perkins Earhart in what they do.
Sometimes it's better to play checkers rather than chess.
Yeah. No, it is. It is.
That.
Listen, we say it all the time, right? I mean, you got to keep it simple. And I think that's overused. You know, I've been a high school and college coach for 30 years, and if I had a nickel for every time a guy said to me, you got to keep it simple. You got to let your guys play, and you can't have too many plays, and think players, not plays, and all this other bullshit. That's great, and I agree with it. But by the same token, you still need some volume. You need to have answers. They're going to do things, and you can't just say, we're going to continue to run what we run, and that's it. You don't win football games that way. You don't win championship games that way. You need to have answers. So I still want the volume, and I still want the diversity in my offense, but I also think it needs to be simple. And I think the way you make it simple is through terminology. The way you make it simple is don't put as much on the player's plate, especially post-snap. I think that's how you make it simple. And I think McDaniels, has done a great job of that.
Yeah, the quarterback's 23, and he's growing every day, so you can add more week to week, year to year, and he'll be able to handle it. Whatever they're doing now is working, because the man has had 7 straight passer ratings over 100, which is phenomenal. The gold standard for passer ratings, and I know you're not a huge passer rating guy, but it basically incorporates completions, attempts, yards, interceptions, and touchdowns. 5 pretty important categories. The gold standard is Aaron Rodgers, who had a 122.5 passer rating in 2011 as VP season. He had the 100-plus passer rating in the first 12 games that year. Drake May is right now on a 7-game heater of 100-plus passer ratings. Whether the eye test is passed or not, he is playing at a very, very, very high level.
All right, you were breaking up there, John, but I think we did get most of what you said. Obviously, passer rating is important. I don't put as much stock in it as other people do, but I get it. I get why people do put stock in it. And to your point, it bundles everything nicely together, and it gives you a pretty good idea of where a quarterback is. But I think it's just overused as a barometer in terms of judging quarterbacks. And I still think, and that's the coach in me, I'm going to judge them by things that fans in the media may not judge the quarterback by. Not that you guys don't think accuracy is important or taking care of the football is not important. I think everybody thinks those things are important, but I don't put as much stock in it. I think a lot has been made about his passer rating and everything else. I think the bottom line is when you look at his completions and his attempts, he's efficient. Now, it's interesting because some people that have tried to be detractors of what he's doing have made an interesting point in that. Has he been put in a position, though, to have to win a game for them? You can make the argument the Buffalo game, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But their point is, has he been put in a position where he's going to have to throw it 40-plus times and win them a game and maybe not complete more than 25 of those passes? Their argument is that McDaniels has done a really good job of putting him in a position to succeed. They're not throwing the ball an exorbitant amount. They're throwing it just enough. And conceptually, he's running things with him that he excels at and he can do. And so it's more McDaniels and catering the plan to him and not putting him in harm's way. And that's why he's been so good. And my answer to that is, well, no shit. That's the job of a coach. That's
Exactly.
what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to be like, go out there and do whatever the hell you want. That's not the way it works.
No, I mean, obviously they go hand in hand. This offense is not performing as it is without Drake May developing as a quarterback. You can have Josh McDaniels running his offense with all of the skill set that they have there now, which I think is good, not great. The offensive line is a work in progress. This young man has taken this offense to another level because of his skill set. And we've both agreed from the get-go that this is a top 10 quarterback waiting to happen. Lord knows he may be a top 5 quarterback when we talk here in 2027. I don't know. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks in the NFL, but he is developing at such a rate that it is really scary. It really is. I've never seen anything like this, and I've been watching football coherently for 50 years plus.
Adam J. Glaze joins us. Thanks for checking in, Adam. Good morning. He says, good morning, gentlemen. Good day for a win. Absolutely. And I still think, listen, I feel a lot better about this game than I did a couple of weeks ago. I was really nervous about this game if you had asked me 2 weeks ago. I feel better about it today. Still think it's a litmus test game for them, though. This is a good football team, and this is a football team that can capitalize on your mistakes. This is a football team that can make big plays on both sides of the ball. So despite the fact that they're Jekyll and Hyde and wildly inconsistent, this is a team that's going to challenge you if you don't get off to a good start, if you don't mind your P's and Q's. They're good enough to come in here and get a win. And if you're the Patriots, especially because you're going to Tampa next week, and Tampa's one of the best teams in the NFC, when you look at this game today, you need this one because you know you're going to be in it next week. That's going to be a tough game down there. Game you can win, but a tough game. But you got to take care of business in this one. You lose this one, and let's say hypothetically you go down there next week, don't play well, lose that one. Now you're on a 2-game slide. Yeah, you'll have the Jets coming in after that, and you've got some winnable games coming up, but you want to maintain the mojo. And I used to say that as a head coach all the time. When we were playing well, fellas, we got to maintain the mojo. We got to keep it going. And it's got to become a repetitive thing. Success has to be repetitive. Mm-hmm. Success isn't just the expectation. It's the way you have to operate. You have to operate like a winner, someone who understands what it takes to win. So this is going to be a challenging game on the field for them, but there's that psychological component where despite what they did last week, you cannot overlook this team. You got to start fast. You got to play a 4-quarter game. You got to be fundamentally sound. You got to clean up the penalties. Penalties are still a problem for this team. You got to do all those things today if you want to win this game.
Yeah, we're talking about the playoffs already. It's midseason. I think they're going to qualify for the playoffs. I feel very confident in that. In fact, I would tell you who I think the 7 playoff teams are going to be in the AFC right now, and I would feel confident in saying that. But do you want to be the 6th seed, or do you want to potentially be the 2 seed? You know, there's a big difference in that. 2 seed, you're at home, seeing 7 seed. You have home field advantage if you get to the divisional round. That's a lot better to be in that situation than having to go on the road at Buffalo or at wherever, Kansas City, whatever place it may be. And that's why these wins are so important right now in this point in the season. You still have 2 games against the Jets, 1 against Miami. You should win those games. That gets you up to 9. A win today gets you up to 10, and then you can go play even with the rest of the schedule. That's a small win. The 2 seed is wide open. Kansas City is the favorite right now to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. If the playoffs started today, Kansas City wouldn't even qualify for the playoffs. They'd be on the outside looking in. That's how close things are in the AFC.
All right, let's play a quick game here. Patriots or Buffalo?
Patriots or Buffalo? Right now, I'm going to go with Buffalo slightly. I think their defense is mystifying. When Matt Milano, Oliver out there, they have a darn good defense. They have Josh Allen. I know the Patriots beat them. Buffalo over the Patriots.
All right, Patriots or Baltimore? Of course, Lamar Jackson is back. They're coming off
Baltimore.
A big win.
Yeah. I think right now Baltimore's going to end up in the Super Bowl. I mean, which is going to bore the hell out of them. But there was a team in the 70s, the LA Rams, that were so similar to the Baltimore Ravens. 9 Pro Bowlers every year, but every year in the playoffs they disappointed. The year talking about them, which people kind of stopped talking about, to 1-5, 9-7, got to the Super Bowl. I think Baltimore's going to win that division easily and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. So I would take Baltimore over the Patriots.
Yeah, nice history lesson, but I don't buy that they're going to get to the Super Bowl. They won't. Patriots or Indianapolis?
I love your dismissiveness. It's awesome. I'm going to surprise people. I'm going to take the Patriots. And when we wrap up this exercise, I'll explain why. Indianapolis has done a great job. Lou Anarumo's done a fantastic defensive coordinator. Jonathan Taylor might be Offensive Player of the Year. Danny Dimes is playing at a very high level, and that offensive line is superb, led by the best lineman in football, and Quentin Nelson. But I still would take the Patriots.
All right, Patriots or Kansas City?
You have to go with Kansas City. Mahomes and Reed, they look more like themselves the last few weeks. The weird thing about Kansas City, John, is last year they won 11 one-score games. They didn't lose any one-score games. This year they're 0-3 in one-score games. Their wins have been blowouts. This is the best their offense has looked since 2022. But they're in a tough division, but you still have to take Kansas City over the Patriots. The quarterback is special and the coach is special.
Patriots or Chargers?
I'm going to take the Patriots. I'm not a huge Justin Herbert fan. I want to see what happens with that offensive line. Now, John Alt was back last week, and that looked like a completely different team.
Joe Alt, the old man retired years ago.
John Alt, yes, exactly. Well, it was an alternative name that I used. But when you look at Justin Herbert, he's played 2 playoff games. He has been horrible in those 2 playoff games. He's thrown 7 interceptions in 2 playoff games. Josh Allen's thrown 4 in 13 playoff games. So I was
comes back to you glazing Allen.
Well, yeah. He's probably my second favorite quarterback. But I would take Drake May over Justin Herbert in the game right now. I would. And I can't believe I'm saying that because I thought that Drake May's ceiling was Justin Herbert. I think it's beyond that.
And finally, Patriots or Denver?
Least favorite team in the NFL, the Denver Broncos. I despise Sean Payton. I know he's a great coach. I get all that. But he is such a tool and such an arrogant SOB that I love rooting against the Denver Broncos. Look, they're both lines of scrimmage are dominant. The offensive line, defensive line. Bo Nix has done a great job. I'm still going to take the Patriots because I like the Patriots quarterback over Bo Nix. And I think when these matchups happen, I know I'm a kiss ass to quarterbacks, but I tend to go with the quarterback, and I would take Drake May over Bo Nix.
All right. Trade deadline is on Tuesday. Do you see the Patriots doing anything?
Are they going to look at running back as a potential add-on because of the Ramondre Stevenson injury? How long is he going to be out? I'm going to be interested to see where Jacoby Myers goes if the Raiders trade him. I think Buffalo would be in play, so maybe the Patriots should also be in play for Jacoby Myers. And you always want to add some sort of depth along the offensive line and in the secondary. Those are your 2 biggest units, and they do suffer a lot of injuries in the course of a season. So I would address those as well. But I'm not going to give up a second or third round pick to add. I'm going to give more of a 4th at best or 5th, 6th round pick to add some pieces to this team. This team is really good, lacks depth, but I think, a few tweaks here and there could put them right in contention.
Yeah, the depth part of it is a big part of it. I'm not looking to add to the offensive line. I think you have enough there. I'm not looking to add to the secondary either. I know a lot of people have talked about that. Maybe a veteran corner who can potentially give you some depth. But for me, I think they need to find a third guy that can come off the edge. They need a third defensive end edge guy. Right now, you're starting to see it. Harold Landry has really slowed down the last 3 weeks. Yeah, he got dinged up against New Orleans. He's not playing as well as he was at the beginning of the season when he was off to a torrid pace. Kayvon Chaison's been terrific for them. But you're missing that third guy, especially now that you traded Keon White. You don't have that third guy. I'm not expecting it to be Elijah Ponder. I don't think he's there yet. He has potential to potentially develop into a good sub-package pass rusher, but I do think that they need that third guy. I think if they're going to make a deal, that has to be the focal point. That's priority number 1. I agree with you at running back, but I'm not selling the farm to bring in somebody like an Alvin Kamara. And when I say selling the farm, I'm not giving up a day 2 pick for that guy.
Nope.
But I think another running back would make sense for them. I don't think you need to make a splash there. But there's also guys that are on the street. You don't necessarily have to go out and trade for a guy. A guy like Zach Moss, as far as I know, I don't think he's signed yet. A guy like that could potentially be a fit. All right, John, finally, before we wrap it up here, your 3 keys to the game and your prediction.
Ability to contain Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts in the passing game, especially intermediary passes, and if they get stuck in certain situations, because the Patriots have had trouble covering backs out of the backfield and tight ends. That to me is the biggest key in this entire game. Get off to a fast start so that the Atlanta Falcons, who are a dome team, they're coming to Foxborough, and apparently, according to you, it's going to be 12 degrees by kickoff. So I want to make sure that you get an early lead against the Falcons, and they just might be shivering on the sidelines. I think that's also very, very, very important. And also
Very
pass protection.
frigid out there today. They're going to need to dress warm.
Yes. Are you wearing your parka or whatever the hell people wear when it's really cold?
No,
okay.
I'm not going to wear a parka, but I'm not like you and every other New Englander who fake pretends they like the cold.
No,
Stop.
I hate
Nobody
it,
likes
John.
the cold.
I hate it.
Nobody likes the cold, and I'm sick and tired of phony New Englanders pretending like they like the cold.
I hate both extremes.
It's like Kevin Stone. Kevin Stone is a tool, but one of the reasons he's a tool to me is because he pretends he likes cold weather.
Oh, no, I hate it.
Stop. Just stop.
But I don't call 48 degrees frigid, but there's a little bit of this. Chilly.
It's cold, man. It's cold.
Can I, and my prediction is going to be Patriots 27-24. I think it's going to be a close game. Atlanta's just wildly talented team that can keep it close. I just want to give us a pat on the back. Okay. So the final 4 games of 2022, the entire 23 and 24 season, and the first 3 games of this year, that's a 41 game stretch. The Patriots were 10-31. They've won now 5 straight games. Started on September 28th against Carolina. Do you know what started on September 28th?
Let me guess, this show.
Yes. So when you see Coach Vrabes, and you see my boy Drake May today, just point that out that since we started this preview show, Patriots 5-0, 10-31 in the previous 41 games. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there you go. Kenny Come Lately just joined the show. What's up, gents? Thoughts on the outcome today? Will it be close? Ken, we just talked about that. Thus your new nickname, Kenny Come Lately. All right, thanks for checking in, Ken. Appreciate it, brother. Maybe if you're around later on, we'd love to hear from you during the post-game show, which will be coming to you about an hour after the end of the game. John Lyons and Kevin Stone and I will have the Patriots Pulse post-game show. We know you have a bunch of other options, and you've got great coverage in this market. We've got a great media team, but give us a look as well for that post-game show. But, John, great job as always, my friend. I want to say thank you for taking the time on this Sunday morning to break this game down.
My pleasure, as always.
All right. That'll do it for this week's episode of the Patriots Pulse post-game show. For John Sapichetti, I'm John Sirenitas. We will be back with you next week. Until then, enjoy the game today. Peace.